Lotus Pod, God's calling Cupid. Cupid's arrow has the answer. He was known to have the arrow that had the DNA code for both understanding, code for love and desire. But he has been found dead now by the last of the jinns of Allah with an arrow in his back. The arrogants already took his arrow to code desire into every device. They blamed it on god Shiva. The history was written as Shiva having struck him with a laser beam from his third eye, but this was fake news. Cupid's code of love was burnt, and the ashes were snorted at the last spirit cooking party, along with the last rhino tusk. Soon on the internet, 80% of the population of Earth, from desire, only searched for porn. Gods called on Krishna and Radha, who as the last resort acted as a couple, releasing a sex tape on Pornhub, with extra minutes of lovemaking added on, with downloadable Kama Sutra memes and subliminal frames intercut to get people into the idea of making love instead. But soon it was discovered by the AI and deleted. The Arakan had made a presentation and presented a report. By combining the expertise from Apple, DARPA, Harper, Fitbit, Alexa, Neuralink and CIA, we haven't spotted, from the data collected on humans, any traces of consciousness after we've manipulated them to this extent. Consciousness is a code we must crack. Humans now know little about their conscious mind. We have extracted Siddha knowledge from the Himalayas. We have studied the DNA documentation produced by the Ark Library Archives of the Record of Civilization from 2019. It has carried 30 million pages of archive of human history and civilization, cultures, nations, languages, genes, and time periods. The library contained linguistic key to 5,000 languages with 1.5 billion translation between them. A full reference library, textbook, tech science book, and most of all DNA sample of all human race and every discovered and documented species. We still found this to be limited, for they were merely documentations produced at a time where de-evolution had already begun. The brain matter sample here can only produce consciousness level of a fetus. What is embedded in them is a sophisticated program, a code by God. It is not showing up on our systems. How do we study something that is not there? The invisibility of Akash and the consciousness leaves an area of data vulnerable for attack by gods. They know, we don't. It is almost like gods have given themselves an invisibility cloak, a backdoor to the universe into the human mind. If we don't gain access into this, gods will begin to recover. Sex at this point had been made into a tool for data collection. AI had begun to use deep learning, and using Pornhub data had begun to own sex. Most people had sex like they were watched. For 7 generations, slowly, adopting the style of robot sex. The result was brilliant beyond any human capacity to understand why it was even brilliant. The machine coded everything using sexual language and persuasion. Everything was seductive to the human mind. Human was set honey traps all the way into extinction. Even their own demise or lack of knowledge was sexy. Life was sexy, and death was sexy, and everything was sexy, and sexual intercourse was placed as the highest pursuit. The mirage, the Maya, the illusion can only be broken by the gods of destruction. The mirage was a large mirror box on the river of Maya, completely created by smart dust. Each dust storing the information of every knowledge and data collected and stolen from the great library of wisdom from Alexandria to China. Arakan had Sangam literature part 1 and 2 that had been missing from the East for over 9,000 years. They also had the knowledge from the Vedas, the scriptures from Zion, Sumerian tablets, and stolen Kemet scrolls to produce the greatest reflection. It was so accurate, the main driver reflected the water on the river, redeeming it invisible. The motherboard, the great web of deception, beamed to every person in the matrix the idea of a free world, but it was a borderless world in these times in all dimensions, in ways we didn't even understand. Yet, the mirage of the borders were placed in the minds of beings themselves on Earth through arrogant manipulation of technology. Everyone had built a protection in their mind. It seemed like the free world, but it wasn't the free world at all, because the people organized themselves like robots in orderly fashion, looked the same and wanted the same things and believed the same dreams. Yet everyone thought their dreams were their own. But we were in a free universe, because the universe rule, or the unseeable boundary in protecting the order of the beings, was believed to be a fixed one. That was the message transmitted or understood or communicated throughout time from stage 1 to stage 8. But now in stage 9, there was no such boundaries or borders. Yet, it is during these chaotic times, the only time where freedom is truly felt throughout the universe. In stage 9, do humans embrace control with open arms. Authoritarianism is sold as freedom, and it was this comfort that humans sought. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. During the end of Kali Yuga, God only had Kali left. She was the only god who was corrupted, embodying the demons, yet she could defeat them. She, Kali, reflected the demons. Some people believed she was a demon god herself. Having lost all forms of weapons, they needed her as a weapon. Gods found Kali using a trail of dead sages and Jesus disciples, all beheaded. Using the thread of heads that rolled, they had followed the trail or the chain of where the heads were to locate Kali residing at the center. Kali reflects demons. Kali was born as a little girl somewhere in Sri Lanka in a town called Jaffna. She was born in the heat of civil war between two cultures. She was subjected to years of uprootedness. She contracted typhoid through contaminated water in the slum, subjecting her to medication that pharmaceutical companies sold on the black market that itself was contaminated to control population growth. In slave country, the effects of trauma from civil war, a fatherless household, abandonment, extreme poverty, addiction to drugs, abused by capitalism, exposed to fake illusion of empowerment through sex, a string of epic tales of a horrific kind, and spat out by a politically correct world, you end up a goddess who acts like a demon. She possesses all of the qualities of the Cains, and she is unaware who is her friend and who is her foe. To this day, Kali suffers from extreme personality disorder. She can swing from demon to goddess in 0 to 60th of a second. She was Harley Quinn without a joker. She was paranoid and a stalker. She was perfect if she was set in the right direction, but for many years the gods avoided her. She was a threat to them. When Kali met Zeus, all hell broke loose. When Kali met Shiva, she tried to drown him in the river. Kali was jealous, she killed other gods, and she was always at odds. She was good as a Cain and understood their code, as well as having understanding to Akasha, the code of God. If she fell into the demon hands, it would be the end of all gods, but gods needed her as a weapon.